send him an email with the link
Yes,
to the recording, and then he can do the minutes for this meeting.
will do.
Okay. Okay, before I go on to number three, I think David had requested a community meeting on something to do with North Fork, like adding 50 residential units. And I asked Allison if we could do that, if we could modify the agenda. I never got a response, so I don't know if we're allowed to do that at the meeting.
This is David. You mean for the meeting in February?
Oh, that was for the meeting in February.
Yeah, it's for the meeting in February. We were just
Oh,
making
okay.
sure we could put it on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Allison didn't, she didn't mention February. I saw it, right, it was this,
Yeah, I'll just give
February's
you a
fine.
quick reason for coming back. This is the exact same rezoning that I've already done a community meeting on. However, as we were going through the traffic analysis and some other design, just kind of putting it together, it became obvious that we had additional capacity from our traffic analysis. In other words, we're building more road infrastructure than we're actually using. We're still not going to, anyway, the long story short,
February.
we got 50 more units. And she said because we changed the residential numbers by 50 units, it's about 3%. We're adding about 3%. She said, I got to come see y'all again. So here I am.
Okay.
So we'll see you in February.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to move on to community meeting ZMA 2025 00014 2349 Reuben Lane. And Sid, if you're here, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Yeah, I'm here. Hey, good evening, everyone. Can y'all see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes, thank you for the verbal yes. I can't see y'all really, so any audio would be great. Well, Happy New Year. Haven't done a virtual meeting in, geez, 5 years, 4 years now. So forgive me if it's a little, the flow's not flowing right. But my name is Sid Schoaf. I'm a senior planner with the county's planning division, and I'm here tonight to open the community meeting for a zoning map amendment ZMA-2025-142943 Reuben Lane. Okay, next slide. So this is the agenda for my portion of the meeting. Just gave an introduction. With me today is Rebecca Ragsdale, the current planning manager, and then JT Newberry is also here from my team, and he'll be presenting the second item for tonight. So I'm going to go over briefly at a high level the county review process for zoning map amendments, and then I'll provide a very high level overview of what the applicant's proposal is, and then we'll switch over for the applicant to go ahead and give their presentation, and that's where they can provide all the details of their proposal. And then after their presentation, we'll hopefully answer any questions from the committee members and members of the public that are present. So why are we here today? We're here today to share information about the proposed project, the legislative review process, and then relevant policies and regulations that are applicable from our zoning and comprehensive plan. We're also here to collect public input. So anything that you all say today, I'm taking notes. It's being recorded, so I'll go back and listen to it. But all of this stuff gets factored into any staff report or review comments that we'll send to the applicant in the future if it gets to that point. And so this is the first community meeting. There are 2 additional meetings for the public as part of this process. The first is that it's required to go to the Planning Commission for a public hearing. And then after the Planning Commission, they develop a recommendation for approval, and then it needs to go to the Board of Supervisors for another public hearing. And at the end of the Board of Supervisors public hearing, they approve or deny the application. Just for recap purposes, this community meeting is for information purposes only. There are no decisions being made this evening, and no actions will be taken. So here's a chart about how development happens in Albemarle County. So zoning map amendments and special use permits are considered legislative review, which is on the left side, and that means it needs Board of Supervisors approval. I'll go further into the legislative review process in the next slide. But if this zoning map amendment is approved by the board, that doesn't mean it's ready to be constructed or whatever. It still requires more plans to be reviewed and approved by the county. And so if it gets approved, they'll be able to submit a site plan and any applicable subdivision plats. And then once the site plan gets wrapped up, that's when they're able to go into building permits, and then they need to get those approved before they get their zoning clearance for construction. And so I share this because it's a very lengthy process, each of these different parts of the review. And so, like I said, we're still very early on in the process, and it's important to provide any feedback that you have now. So legislative review. If a property owner seeks to change the zoning district of their property, the board is required to approve it. And so this is known as legislative review. And so this application is reviewed by county staff, both internal and external. And so that includes my division, which is planning, our zoning office, fire marshal, engineering, parks and recreation, school. And then external includes the Virginia Department of Transportation, the Albemarle County Service Authority, Rivanna Water and Sewer Authority, et cetera. And so after, during our review process, which is ongoing right now, I'm going to send a review comment to the applicant. And at that point, they have a couple options for how they would like to proceed. They can either take into whatever review comments we have and defer their application to make revisions. They can see our comments and decide they want to go straight to the Planning Commission, or they can withdraw their application. And so that'd be later on in the next couple of weeks as this review is complete by staff. And so going into the project that I'm here presenting today, it's ZMA 2025-14, 2943 Reuben Lane. Here's a context map. So this parcel is located west of Route 29, south of Hollymead Drive, and north of Ashwood Boulevard. I think this committee, and I think we're all familiar, there's a lot of development that's ongoing right now. And so this project is highlighted in blue. Directly south of it is the Holly Hills development, which has been recently approved with their phase 1. And then south of the Holly Hills development is Archer North, which is a 2-phase development as well. So zooming into our specific project, it's approximately 7.35 acres and contains an existing, we just did a site visit. It looked like an abandoned home, and the address is 2943 Reuben Lane. It is accessed by Reuben Lane, which is a 20-foot private road that serves 4 lots and is accessed via Hollymead Drive. The area that's shown in green, those are portions of steep slopes preserved on site. And there's also an existing 100-foot stream buffer as well within that steep slopes area. As I mentioned in the last slide, adjacent to the south is the Holly Hills development, which is currently under construction for 318 apartment units and 72 townhouse units. Adjacent to the north is an undeveloped parcel, and adjacent to the northeast is a parcel with a single family residence. And then further north, which is just cut off from the screenshot, are the Hollymead townhomes development. The subject property is currently zoned R1 residential, shown in green, and the applicant is requesting to rezone the parcel to planned residential development. You can see the other parcels to the south are all have been rezoned to planned residential development, and then the parcels adjacent to it to the north are R1 residential, and beyond that is planned unit development. So this is the Albemarle County Comprehensive Plan establishes a 20-year vision for the county. It is a document that contains overarching policies and recommendations and incorporates each of the master plans and small area plans as they're adopted by the Board of Supervisors. I think most of you may be familiar. You've probably heard of AC 44. That was recently adopted by the Board of Supervisors in October last year, and its effective date was January 1st of this year. And so that is what this proposal has been reviewed for consistency with. The Places 29 master plan primarily designates this parcel as urban density, which is for density between 6 to 34 units per acre. The maximum height is 4 stories, and there's a preference for 2 or more housing types within these types of developments. The secondary designation, which is shown as green, is labeled as privately owned open space or environmental features, and it appears to be consistent with the steep slope preserved areas. There's also a black dashed line that cuts through a portion of the property. That denotes a potential connection for pedestrian bicycles and vehicles. Like I said at the beginning of my presentation, the applicant will provide more in-depth details for their proposal, but here's a high-level overview of it. The applicant's requesting to rezone the entire parcel from R1 residential to planned residential development for a maximum of 120 units. The applicants provided 3 different proposals for review, which includes a multifamily layout for 120 units, a single family attached proposal for 58 units, and a single family detached proposal for 22 units. The proposed density range would be between 3 to 16 dwelling units per acre. All 3 proposals include accessing the site from the Holly Hills development, which is, I don't know if you can see my cursor on the screen. There are 2 access points from the Holly Hills development. One's right here, and then the other one's on the right side of the screen, which includes a private access easement and then a public right-of-way connection from the future Marigold Drive as part of the Holly Hills project. Also part of this request, the applicant's requesting to rezone approximately 15,500 square feet of steep slopes preserved to steep slopes managed to construct the housing units on the site. And so here's a timeline of the application. Right now, we're still reviewing the proposal. Comments will be sent to the applicant by January 20. And then from there, we'll figure out if it's going to go to the planning commission or what steps they want to take. But I encourage everyone who's here in attendance tonight to provide their emails in the chat. That way I can add you to the interested parties list for this application and keep you updated as the application progresses. Serena, at this point, I'd like to hand it over to Nicole, who I think is the main presenter tonight.
Should I wait for...
Oh, you go ahead, Nicole.
Okay, great. And I'm gonna share my screen, if that's okay. But while I'm figuring that out, so my name is Nicole Scrow. I'm a land use and zoning attorney. I'm also a real estate developer. I'm kind of glad that this is on Zoom, honestly, though I know it was a mix-up because it seems like everybody has the flu. And so I'm sorry if I'm a little bit under the weather. Okay, so I believe I'm sharing the presentation now.
So right now you're showing there you go. Perfect.
Okay, got it. Okay. So a lot of this Sid went through, so I'll try to be a little bit faster. The property is right next to that Holly Hills development that they're powering through their site work right now. And so I'm starting at the beginning, at the end, of course. So let me go back to the, okay. So this is the zoning map. So Sid talked about this. Our property is right here, and it's currently zoned R1, and we would like to propose rezone it to PRD, which is the Holly Hills development has been rezoned to that, and Hollymead is PUD. So quite a few rezonings around here. The rezoning would match the comprehensive plan. The biggest issue with this rezoning is I wish I had more details and more information to provide you all, but there's a lot still up in the air. And so I apologize for that. And one of the reasons for that is it takes a long time. I'm sure a lot of you know, to just go through the process, and the world changes in that time. We got one project approved, which I bothered Rebecca about in the chat, and I'm sorry about that. 999 Rio on March 4th, 2020, which was right before the pandemic hit. So this is, I don't know, things change is eminently personal for me, and we had to really rework that project after the pandemic. So that's why this rezoning is pretty broad in nature and allows for what Sid mentioned, like 3 different potential layouts. Um, and so we're the maximum density, I believe, and said maybe I'm wrong, but I believe it's 110. 110 is the number of units, and I think that number, or I know that number, whether it's 110 or 120, and my memory might be wrong. But it comes from the traffic study that Holly Hills did, because they incorporated this project or this property in their traffic study, and they had envisioned 110 units on this, or 120 on this property. And so that's how we set the density, because the traffic study from the Holly Hills development had considered redevelopment of this property already. So the biggest thing, besides, it's a pretty broad spectrum of, density and different projects. And the other thing that we're asking for is, to change the steep slope designation from preserve to manage, so that we can disturb some of those slopes. And that's what's being shown on my screen right now, or on the screen right now. And so the buildable areas in that orange, the yellow is the preserved slopes that we're looking at changing the designation of, and the green is what's certainly being kept and not being disturbed. And then there's blue up here that is disturbable area that we're keeping undisturbed, and is going to be, a buffer. If you go back to the site, can people see my cursor? Like my mouse when
Yeah, we can see that.
okay. So this area that's being preserved that can be disturbed is right here. And the area that we are asking to disturb is over here. And so it's really the buffer area for the more of a buffer area for the adjacent, neighborhoods, including the future development of Holly Hills, the townhouses that are over next door. And so the idea is that we have in mind is, that stream is really the reason why those slopes are considered or designated where there are, and the environmental impact that's happening. And so we think preserving that area and ensuring that there's an even larger area that's preserved is more important than necessarily this kind of elongation into the site. So that's kind of the thought process behind that, but that is a key point of the application. These next few slides are showing the different layouts that Sid mentioned. So this first one is the single families. And perhaps I should have shown this earlier, but later I'll show what the Holly Hills, this is the townhouse layout, what the Holly Hills project is shown. So up here is the, Holly Mead up here. There's another, I don't know if you guys noticed, go back. There's this tax map parcel 4628G. That we don't own that, and that's in between our property and Hollymead. And so that's an even more of a buffer. And then, so when you look at the development, that parcel that's not developed yet and we don't own is right here. And then the Hollymead is up there, and Holly Hills is kind of surrounding the project. So this is the townhouse layout, and then the apartments, and all of the parking. So I pulled this from the traffic study that Holly Hills did, and you can see, actually, it's kind of hard to see, but 4628H, that's actually the property that we're talking about now. And so you'll see that they had, envisioned something here. In fact, I think it's 110 or 120 units. And then they also envision the property next to us that we don't own being redeveloped as well. And this is kind of what their master plan, guess at what, the development could be. And so this was just interesting to show how everything could have all fit together. And again, reiterates that it was considered as part of the traffic study. This is what Holly Hill's plan eventually was approved for, the concept plan that was approved. And again, the property is right here that we're talking about. So you can kind of see we would be connecting either here, which might not happen, and I'll talk about that in a second, or here. Um, and so um, one of the reasons why things are a bit up in the air, um, you know, I don't know why this happened, but this is where, if you see, that access easement was contemplated in the application plan. But in the site plan, it shows, parking. And actually like at its highest point, 17-foot retaining wall all along this edge of the property. So it's not very, going back to the TIA, it's not very holistically contemplated in how this area would be redeveloped. And that's been frustrating for how to lay out the property. I'm not totally happy with the layout just yet. And my hope is that we can come to terms with we're negotiating with the adjacent property owner, like some sort of grading easement and utilities and access easement so that they don't have to build this like 17-foot retaining wall. And we can work together to have the grade make more sense between us and it can be more integrated. But they are powering through their site work. They're out there in all weather, pouring concrete in the snow, it feels like. So I don't know if we'll be able to work it out. But I'm trying. And so we'll see. And that's why things are up in the air. And I'm sorry about that. I wish I had more to tell you because that whether or not that grading easement and that retaining wall happens will really impact the eventual layout. So that's really all I have. This is again this site, and so this is really, really early. Just because I always ask everyone that I'm on one of the CACs, I always ask everyone about affordable housing. So I'm going to answer my own question. I don't know. I know that the county changed their affordable housing policy, and it's more stringent and harder from just a you know, for-profit developer to meet. But I would like to meet with Stacy and think through. Stacy's the housing director at Albemarle County, and so I just need to think through how to tackle the affordable housing recommended um, requirement or recommendation for rezonings, given, hey, we might have a 22-unit single family layout, we might have a larger apartment building, and how you tackle affordable housing in those different developments are very different. And I'm letting the things play out with this grading easement and thinking through the layout a little bit more before I'm able to tackle that, but I need to meet with Stacy and figure that out. So that is very much up in the air, and I'm sorry, and I'm working on it. But I'm happy to come back once I have more information. But that is where I am at, just to be upfront. So yeah, I'm very early, so I would love to get your feedback and at this early stage, and hear from you all. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions, and happy to answer anything. I see.
Great, thank you. Nicole, if you want to stop sharing, and then maybe if we need you to pull up your slide deck, that would be great. I see Supervisor LaPisto Kirtley has her hand raised, and then Bill, would you like to facilitate the Q&A portion, or do you want my assistance? Oh, go ahead, Nicole.
Yeah,
I'm reading. Okay. Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
just
B,
before you go, Bill, I'm so
sure.
sorry. Justin Shimp is our engineer, and I don't know if he's a panelist or an attendee, but any questions pertaining to engineering that I don't know, I'm sure he certainly can answer those. And anyway, FYI, he is here. He also, I think, has the flu. So um, anyway.
Okay, good enough. Okay, B.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you, Nicole, and I hope you and Justin get feel better soon. Um, yes, the county requires if you're going for a rezoning of a 20% affordable housing.
Yeah.
So that's already set. Justin knows that. And I see that you have there's one street that is going out into Hollymead. What is the name connecting to an existing street, correct? And what is
Uh,
the name of that street? No?
no, what we're connecting to, we're not connecting at all to Hollymead. We're connecting to Holly Hills, and
Yeah,
that might
I
have been
know that.
me misspeaking.
Right, but doesn't Holly Hills, that street, doesn't that connect to Hollymead?
Um, I believe I wish I could pull it up. But I believe there's one connection. I think it's just for emergency access, like emergency
Yeah,
vehicles,
that's
though.
true. That's true.
Um,
Yes.
so
That would be your emergency access then, not a regular road.
yeah, so I don't know. I'm
Okay.
sorry if I'm confusing
No,
things, but
no.
I'm not at all connecting to Hollymead at all. I'm connecting to Holly Hills. Holly Hills has an emergency access street, I believe, that they connect to the Holly Mead. And so
Yes.
my emergency access technically will be through like Holly Hills. You're
Oh,
correct.
okay. Okay.
So and or through Reuben Lane. And again, the layout is still being determined, and so that
We
is
don't know yet. Okay. So second question.
Mhm.
Um, I notice you have 100-foot stream buffer on both sides of the stream there, correct?
That's right.
And is that the normal requirement? And is that taking into consideration the riparian habitat? Is it
Yeah.
for that reason?
Yes, that's not being disturbed. And that's the
Right.
most environmentally in my I mean, yes, I think it's objective to say that's the environmentally sensitive area is it's around the stream.
Okay. So our requirement is 100-foot stream buffer
Yes, yes,
anywhere. Is that correct?
yes.
Okay, any development. Okay. And the last thing is, I know this has been kind of piecemeal for everybody, and we don't have real clear specifics. So I'm wondering if you're going to be bringing this back after you guys have basically figured out what you're going to do, bring it back to our CAC prior to it going to the planning commission and then the board.
Yeah, I thought maybe I should do that. I kind of was gonna leave it up to you all. But yeah, I'm happy to do that. And yeah, anyway, I'm happy to do that. There's still a little bit of ways to go. So
And that would be whether for the committee, that would be not me asking, but the committee if they want that to happen or not.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Gary, you had your hand raised, so you can unmute and ask your question.
Okay, really, thank you very much. It's just more of a statement. And B, I want to thank you for asking that first question about the connector to Hollymead, because that is a big bone of contention with the people that happen to live there. And I'm very familiar with those neighborhoods and those folks. And I will go back and tell them what I've heard tonight and reassure them that this new development we're talking about is not going to connect, but the Holly Hills is still there. Because people are obviously worried that this emergency connector is going to become a throughway. And that's what they're really concerned about. So I want to thank you for bringing that up and being on top of that. And I will pass that information on. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Frank? Unmute, Frank.
Yeah.
Frank? Oh,
I walk that neighborhood. I live close by and I walk there a lot. I couldn't find the lot. Is it marked in any way? Is the property marked that you could see it when you enter from Reuben Lane?
That is a great question. We have not, there are no property markers out there for this property, but Lincoln Surveying has been out there. Though with all the site work happening, it might be hard to tell. Um, but if you go down Reuben Lane, there's there's I mean, Sid probably walked it earlier than I did. Last time I was out there was in 2025, in like November. But anyway, to answer your question, no, there are no markers out there, but Lincoln Surveying has marked the Holly Hills property. And so since we're right next to it, that's what I used as my point of orienting myself. So you'll see their survey markers out there. Um, and that will help you. And I walked the stream. Um, but you're right, it is kind of hard to orient yourself when you're out there and figure out where exactly the property.
That's fine. Now, the question I have is, what's going to happen to the Reuben Lane? Is that going to just end? Because as you shown on your chart, you will access from the Holly Hills.
Yes. Yeah, so Holly Hills is connecting off of 29, right? And so but I believe the Holly Hills developer has to improve partially Reuben Lane. So, and that's just for emergency access, I believe again. Um, Let me pull it up really quick to make sure I'm not misstating that. Um,
Well, my question is,
yeah.
if you're going to channel all the traffic
Oh,
from
it's a
this
trail.
development through Holly Hills into Forest Lakes, bottom line is that's what you're doing, right? Because it all ends up on the intersection of Forest Lakes and Seminole Trail. So that's kind of a strange setup because I would have thought that you would connect into Hollymead Drive, which is a road right adjacent to it.
There's actually property in between us and Hollymead Drive, so I can't connect to it, even if I wanted to. So I mean, you're right that all of the traffic is going to go onto Seminole Trail.
Yeah.
I don't know, the traffic will disperse, either towards the city or not. But yes, and again, the reason why we max our density at 110 or 120, if my memory is incorrect, is because that traffic study had thought of what the impact would be to Seminole Trail if we were developed at max density. So um, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I hear you, and yeah, we cannot connect to Hollymead even if we wanted to, because of the property between us and them.
Well, the other thing I would, excuse me if I'm just too long or too windy, but I just want to suggest to you, think about the sewage and water systems. As you know, it all flows downhill and it eventually ends up going through Forest Lakes down to the other neighborhoods, down to the polo grounds and all of the above. So think about it when you're doing the planning, because once you do it for Holy Hills, you might as well do it for the other neighborhood plan, right? Because you don't want to redo it again once you develop this neighborhood, the Reuben Lane neighborhood, whatever it's called, because you've just done sewer and water for the Holy Hills, which is not even done yet. Anyway, that's just my opinion.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you, Frank. Tony, go ahead and unmute yourself. Unmute, Tony.
There we go.
Thank you.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. Nicole, relative to this project, the only thing that's certain is either 110 or 120 units. And that there are 3 plans so far until the county staff gives you feedback on January 20th. Is that correct?
Just for further clarity, it's not as though it has to be one of those three. It can be a combination thereof. So, but it is, yeah, the rezoning effectively is a rezoning to match the comprehensive plan. And so it's a rezoning to allow that density amount, but it isn't as specific as,
So, um, another sticking point in this is the 20% of however many uh, uh, buildings there are that have to be affordable according to the county dictates, right?
Yeah, so I'm very familiar with the affordable housing requirement, and it changing. And again, it's not a requirement; it's a recommendation. And I say that because when it changed, there aren't many people that have actually met that since it's been passed because it's a hard 20% of the units at 60% area median income is very hard to achieve, especially for, you know, a variable project like this. If it's a 22 unit single family detached, that's difficult. It could be more feasible potentially, especially with the new abatement program the county has, perhaps with an apartment building. So what I am tasked with once we get a little bit more clarity on layout is figuring out, how to best be able to try to meet that recommendation from the
Oh,
county.
that's interesting. I didn't think that was a recommendation.
It's a
I
recommendation for sure.
Oh, that's
Um,
that's very interesting.
It's the county's policy.
mhm.
Um,
Yep.
and so, but just to clarify, when Nicole said we haven't had any applications that have met it yet,
Yep.
I don't know if that's necessarily true or not. We would have to take a look at all the information, but based on staff's review, it's a 20% policy for affordable housing units for all the new units for this development. So if they're proposing
Okay.
120 or 110, it'd be 20% of that is what's expected.
Okay. Thank you.
Or it would be 20% of whatever is actually built. Right? So it's if we have a maximum allowable amount of 120, then but we propose the site plan has only 22, it would be 20% of the 22. It depends on what actually gets built, right? Because if you have a max density of 110 and you only build 22, but it's 20% of the 110, that would be effectively you're building, that would be a much higher percentage number. Sid, yeah, we've had quite a few projects go before the Places 29 Rio CAC that I'm on. And I always ask this question because I am definitely a proponent of affordable housing. And there have been many projects that have not been able to meet that 20% recommendation. And they've, had stepped down. The most recent one that actually Stacy has recommended for approval, even though it doesn't meet the recommendation, it just, it steps up. So like 10% meets 60% AMI, and then 5% is at 80% AMI, and then another 5% is at 120 AMI. And so it's like a step up sort of thing. So you have 20% affordable, but not the 60% AMI. Right. And it's just because it is difficult to build those more deeply affordable units. You need more subsidy to make it possible. As much as I want to build it, it's just very hard. So I mean, this is something near and dear to me, and trust me, I annoy every applicant who comes before my committee and asks them these questions. So bring it, I'm glad you guys are asking it too. And it's something that I need to spend more time on to figure out. And I don't have a good answer yet. And so I hope you appreciate that. I take it seriously and it's important to me. And I hope I have a better answer next time I come before you guys. So thanks.
Okay, Anthony, anybody else on the committee? I don't recall anybody from the public, but if there is, if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand.
All right.
See everybody at the same time?
Bill, I'd raise my hand. Maybe I didn't push the
Okay.
button. Right.
Okay, David.
So you know what I'm going to talk about, affordable housing. When Nicole says it's hard, it means it's impossible for
Yeah.
for sale products in particular. And you need to understand what you're asking is for the developers to shift, because the deeply affordable housing, what that means is you're selling it for less than it costs to build. So you're asking the developer to take a loss on those things. And that means one of two things happens. The project doesn't get done and it doesn't move forward. Well, three things. The second thing is the government could come in and actually subsidize that housing, which I would actually advocate for. Use our tax dollars. If that's as important to the community should use its tax dollars to support it. And the third thing is, which won't work, whatever you're going to lose on that affordable house, you're going to have to charge more on the for-profit houses, which all that does is drive up the cost of housing for the other people that are theoretically buying at market value. That's my preaching. That's all I got to say about that. Now, you can't, that's not true. You can get it done with rental properties, barely. And you do need, I think, if you want to go real deep, the 60% number, you're going to need to subsidize that through, I would suggest, tips, where basically, if the developer can say, I'm going to lose X amount of dollars to the market rent per unit, the county needs to give you a cut on your tax rate for that property, as long as you're providing those units at that lower, deeper number. And that's just a simple agreement. We've done it in the city. It's called a TIF, tax increment financing. It's a nice little term. But basically, whatever the developer is losing renting these units at a lower rate than what it costs them to build them and finance them and manage them, the county or the community is giving him that same amount of money that he's losing to compensate him for it. And we can fight about the little bit of profit, and y'all think it's a lot, but it's not a lot of profit on rental property. Um, you know, that those are your options. And I'm with Nicole. I certainly haven't seen anything in the city move forward since they passed their affordable housing projects. The only things that are moving that everybody's like, well, what about this project? What about that project? Well, those things were approved before they passed those regulations. And at some point, we're gonna run into a gap between things finishing and nothing getting approved. And we've already got a 2-year gap right now. So
Okay,
you've heard me
B,
say it before. I'll be
yeah.
quiet now.
Okay, B, you have your hand raised, but before you go on,
Yes.
if we want to have a discussion about the practicality of the county's policy on affordable housing, we could maybe put that on the agenda for another meeting. Because right now, we just need to deal with this one. So go ahead, B.
Exactly. And David is correct. I mean, we've seen a couple, I think, come through so far, but we haven't seen a lot come through. But I did want to ask Nicole, are these what's being proposed is being called Reuben Lane Development? Is this for rental or purchase?
And and this is what I said, and this is why I'm struggling. And David, and I said this earlier, doing affordable housing for rent and doing affordable housing for sale are two very different animals. And
Correct.
the reality is I don't know yet whether the project will be an apartment building that's 110 units or single family detached. And that's one of the reasons why I'm struggling with how to put this all in a proper statement right now.
Right.
So,
I understand. I'm just wondering if if the developer's already decided they're going to be rentals or for purchase, or you don't know yet.
I do not know yet.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I did have a couple of questions. So I'm gathering from your presentation that this is a different development. You're representing a different development company than Holly Hills.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Sorry. I should clarify. I'm the developer.
Okay, so you're the developer. Okay.
I have business partners with me who aren't here tonight necessarily. But yeah, and I am not Holly Hills developer, and it's been frustrating that the the property project altogether hasn't been more holistically developed. It is very, very separate and kind of, I don't know if that was intentional or not, to be that way, but it's not good, I don't think, for the larger area. But it is what it is.
So,
But yeah, I am not Holly Hills.
so when this is, if currently, as you're the developer, this will be a separate community from Holly Hills.
Yes.
And I know Holly Hills has plans for, recreational facilities, including a pool, but the residents of this, your development will not have access to those.
Nothing has been contemplated that way. We could have an agreement in which we would have joint access, but no, I mean, nothing has been, no.
Yeah, I would assume no, because, everybody has to pay their own HOA fees, and, the people in Holly Hills are going to be paying for that pool and whatever else they have. And, unless unless it was part of the same development, I doubt very seriously. So right now, there really isn't no recreational facilities planned in this development. Doesn't look that way. It looks like houses, apartments, or townhouses.
Oh, I will say we will have, and it's required as part of the county's, we will have, and that's what the sketches I showed you are very basic sketches. They don't show the green space that we're thinking about and the amenity areas, and so more detail has to be thought through. We will have that. It's just
Well,
not shown on.
Okay, that leads to the second question, is that I don't recall having one of these come to the committee where we don't have any real idea of what you're going to build there, but you're asking for a rezoning. I mean, it seems to me like this needs to come back when you have more, before it even goes to the planning commission. It would seem to me you'd have to have another community meeting where there's more information about what it is you intend to build. I don't know how we could, it doesn't, to me, it's like, I don't know how we could have any input on this from the community when, there's a big difference between 22 single family homes and 122 apartments in terms of what's, the impact on the community, the impact on the schools. And the one thing I would be concerned about, I suppose I'm guessing VDOT's going to say everything's okay, but it seems to me like you're coming out on 29 out of the same exit that the Holly Hills development does. So there's no way, there's two ways of coming south on 29 from this development, it seems. It's like, and Holly Hills and Archer, is you come out on 29 and go north and hit Hollymead Drive and try to make a U-turn, or you drive down Archer and come out on Ashwood Boulevard. And there's a big difference between 22 and 122 in terms of traffic and schools. So, I know the people in Forest Lakes are very concerned about the traffic coming out on Ashwood Boulevard. So, it's like you either come out on Ashwood Boulevard or you come out on Seminole Trail. And right now, the U-turn lane at North Hollymead is very limited. Right now, almost nobody uses it. Okay. And except people that miss their turn and have to go back. And now there's going to be an awful lot more. There's going to be more traffic trying to make a U-turn there. So I feel like, if it's 22 single family homes, that's almost no impact. But if it's 122 apartments, I've seen the numbers, and I've seen, in your application here, and frankly, those numbers I have very little confidence in the numbers that come into this algorithm develops for the number of cars during rush hour. And I have even less confidence in the algorithm for the school children, the number of kids going to school. I mean, for 22 homes, I think you say there's 12 additional total students for the county. And then you go to the next step, which is twice as many, more than twice as many units, and you say, oh, well, then there's only 17 students. I know you're not doing this, but all I'm saying is I don't have any faith in that algorithm. I really feel like somebody needs to double check that with the school board and make sure that those numbers still work. I don't know where the assumptions come from with the number of students from single family homes versus townhomes versus apartments. Anyway, but I just don't feel like that this is it doesn't look like it's ready for prime time in a sense that we don't know what you're trying to build here.
Yeah, and that's fair. I tried to qualify my statements with I don't have a lot of answers for you, but I hope that you take this as like me trying to gather what you all are thinking. And I will be spending time trying to figure some of this stuff out. It's a challenge because of this, we might or might not have a retaining wall between our properties, and I'm trying my best to work
Okay.
faster. One thing I will challenge though, you know, it's not going to have all of the specifics, and it can't. And it can't because I can't predict what's going to happen in 3 years when I finally can move dirt. And, the world is different at that point and the market's different. And so there needs to be some flexibilities in these applications in order to, adjust to what the market is calling for. And so the way that you can think through some of these, unknowns is, well, if the maximum is 110, you can analyze the impacts or 120, you can analyze the impacts of that development. And if it's less, that's, whatever, right? So that's how you think about it. And this is something that, the county needs housing. We need housing in our area, and we're, trying to build more housing that meets the comprehensive plan. And so this is really a rezoning that matches a comprehensive plan. So I hear you. I need more answers. You're right. I hope that I've said that enough. But at the same time, I do want to challenge, like, we can't have all the details. So anyway, yeah.
Keith, you had a question?
Yeah, so this is my first time doing this, and so I'm just not sure
cool.
if you're required to have the 20% affordable housing, or is that just if you choose to do that, then you do that.
So in in the city, there's what's called inclusionary zoning, where you're required in certain zoning districts to build 10% of the units at 60%, well, it depends, but generally at 60% area medium income. In the county, for rezonings in the Almoral housing part of the comprehensive plan, it recommends for each rezoning 20% of the units at 60% area medium income. And if an application doesn't meet that, it's considered a factor unfavorable often. Again, I mentioned that plan where actually Stacy, our the county housing officer, did recommend in their favor, even though they didn't meet the 20%, or not the 20%, but the 60% AMI. They had like this step down. So I've seen it. I've very obsessively watched what other applicants have done for this, because it's such a hard thing to figure out, as David mentioned. And I'm curious how everyone else is figuring it out. But yeah, it's a recommended for each rezoning in the comprehensive plan. And it is certainly, and B can attest, like, it's something that they take seriously and want to see with each application. But because it's something that changed, the policy used to be, I think, 15% at 80% area medium income. And that's something that developers could meet. More easily, at least. So it's been hard to meet that new policy. And so it's been a bit of a weird, I don't know, period for applications to try to meet that. So, yeah.
But just kind of reading between the lines, then it sounds like if you did apartments, then you could potentially hit that number. If you did townhomes or single family homes, then it's within the realm of possibility that it doesn't, meet
Yeah.
the. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so not to take up all of your time, the project next door, they're building townhouses. A larger developer, Lennar, is building them, and I think they're building townhouses that are actually for rent.
Okay.
And so, just because the housing type is for sale doesn't, or is a townhouse doesn't mean that it's for sale. So, anyway, and another way to meet the affordability is by partnering with um, the Piedmont Community Land Trust or Habitat for Humanity. I've got my own problems with each of those entities. I think that they could do a better job in certain ways, but they've also put units in the ground for people. So I don't know. It would be interesting, yeah, when I'm in the same room with them. But I also would recommend New Hill Development Corporation for another. But yeah, I mean, Dave is right. I as a for-profit entity, I cannot do it. The only way to do it is by subsidy or if you're a large project, perhaps the other homes can subsidize it. In this case, I don't have enough units to do that at all. But or you partner with so you get subsidy or you partner with these for nonprofit entities. So
Okay.
anyway, yeah,
Okay. Thank you for answering my
yeah.
question.
Welcome.
Thank you.
B, you have your hand up?
Go ahead, Dee. Sorry.
I just wanted to answer Keith's question because he is new. Usually an area where you want to develop has already been given a certain number of types of homes or number of homes you can put in there, depending if it's residential, planned development, et cetera, et cetera. If you want to add more, so if you want to add a lot more instead of what is currently available, if you want to add more, then that's where the 20% affordable housing kicks in. That's part of it. We let you build more, you give us 20% affordable housing. This little FYI, but I go back to my original question with Bill. I'm hoping you're going to ask that this comes back to this 29 North CAC prior to it going to the Planning Commission or Board of Supervisors.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I would think that. We had a question from a Jeff B. I don't see him here, but Jeff, if you want to unmute. Oh, okay. There you are.
Can you hear me? Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
And what's your full name, Jeff? I'm on that.
sorry, Jeff Boutte.
Yeah. Jeff what?
Boutte.
Okay. Go ahead.
So, a couple questions. Sorry, I'm on my iPad, so I don't have full Zoom access here. But I heard the number 120 said a couple of times, but the letter I got said 110 residential units. Is that changing?
Yeah,
It's
I've
up to
mentioned
110.
this. I believe it's 110, but I could be wrong, and it could be 120.
Nicole,
But
so the narrative you provided said 110, but based off of the conceptual plans you provided, the multifamily unit one showed 120 units, and so that's what we're basing our review based off of.
Oh, well, so the concept plans that we're given are just illustrative. They're not binding in any way. Like those are you should be reviewing the application plan, right? Not the like illustrative plans that are just conceptual, not, specific, not binding. So it should be based on the application plan, and that general illustrative plan that I showed here that has 120, that was done actually. It was at 120, and then we changed it to 110 based on looking at the TIA, the traffic impact analysis that Holly Hills did. So that's why that concept plan has in the apartment building has 120 rather than 110.
So, is the permit going to be adjusted for 110, or is it going to go in as 120 as it is today?
It will be 110, and
Okay.
again, Sid, for review purposes, those are illustrative. the three plans that were given. What should be reviewed is the application plan.
Right,
Not
but I understand that, but we review all the materials that are presented, and so there was just a lack of consistency there, and so we went with the higher number, but that's something we'll work on revising in between once our review comments are wrapped up. Yeah, thank you though.
So
Okay,
two other questions.
uh,
One, I just want
go
to make
ahead.
sure, I think I heard it earlier, but there is not going to be any connection to Reuben Lane, right? Both entrances for this proposed is going to be on, connected to Holly Hills.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
And the only thought I had with Reuben Lane was perhaps to have like a emergency access or something, but again, that's not, yeah, that's
Well,
Okay.
that's what Holly Hills has already proposed as emergency access with bollards at the end of it. So,
exactly.
it should be there. Okay. And then the last question was green space, right? This is one of the things lessons learned from Holly Hill. They said they were putting in all this awesome green space, but a majority of the green space is non-developable green space. So if looking at the map here, about 50% of this property is, I'm assuming the green is non-developer available space to. So those 110 units are going to go in that salmon, peach, tan, whatever you want to call that color area. That's all going to be where those 110 units are going to go.
Yep, and that's why it doesn't make sense to analyze the illustrative plans because they don't show they're just for kind of the purposes of, thinking through what might be possible. But they don't show trail system and other recreational that we would like to have. So the application plan will have the buildable area and like the preserved. So there's, green space can be defined in many different ways, but for the application plan shows like the buildable area and the preserved area where we cannot touch and we cannot disturb.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
that strip of land between your site and the back of Summer Chase, that's not owned by you, right? That's another entity from what I remember.
Yeah, it's an individual. Yeah, it's not owned by us. Yep.
Okay. Is there any buffer you're going to build or planning to build? Or just the standard 10 to 15, whatever the county requires?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a bit more of a buffer in the rear of the parcel. Uh, and that's what's shown as preserved, but not along a certain length of the property, which is the border between our property and this other parcel. Yeah, it's not shown on our application plan to have like the same sort of preserve buffer that would happen in like the rear corner. Um,
Okay,
Okay.
we
Thank
need to
you.
move on. We have another community meeting on Cornerstone Village at Berkmar, so we kind of need to move on to that. If Serena, if you want to bring up, it's JT Newberry.
Yes, can everyone hear me?
Thanks, guys. Go JT.
Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, Sid, for your great presentation. I'm gonna attempt to share my screen and go through just a few slides before I turn it over to the applicant to talk more about the proposal. So are folks able to see, are you seeing presentation mode or are you seeing the
JT, we're seeing your presenter mode.
presenter mode? So I'm going to switch.
There you go. Perfect.
Okay, great. Thank you, Serena. So I think Sid did a really great job talking about the process and sort of, I think everyone on the call seems pretty familiar with the purpose of community meetings. So I'll just skip right over the agenda and purpose and things that were already covered by Sid.
Thank you.
We are joined tonight by representatives of the applicant. We've got Chuck Rapp from Collins Engineering, and we also have Trent Lawhorn from Omni Partners. I know there is a Scott out there in the attendees. I don't know if that's Scott Collins or not. But if it is Scott Collins, we can pull him up to a panelist to help answer any questions. So I'd have just a few slides before I turn it over to them to talk more about this project. This is a residential project called the Cornerstone Village at Berkmar, and it is a about 5.6 acre parcel that is along Airport Road, right next to Micro Air and across from the intersection with Lewis and Clark Drive. We'll look at some more maps in just a second to help orient you, but this is about equidistance between Route 29 and the airport along Airport Road. This is undeveloped property on the left-hand side if you were driving towards the airport. And so the specific request is to rezone this parcel from rural areas to planned residential development. That's one of our planned districts. And there's a range of dwelling units that the applicant is proposing between 42 and 147 residential units. The application plan has a couple of different dwelling types, which I'm sure the applicants will talk about during their portion of the presentation. But these plan districts are meant to provide some flexibility to developers. I think we heard during the first community meeting discussion tonight how important flexibility is as these developments continue to go through the process. But they're generally regulated by a few documents you may have seen if you click through and looked at the application materials for this one. They're generally regulated by an application plan, a code of development, and proffers. So here's a different look. See if I can get my laser pointer at that property. So I mentioned Micro Air. You can see that's right here. This is the subject parcel. It's about 5.6 acres right now, but there, as some of you may know, there's a planned road project that would extend Berkmar all the way through this area to Airport Road, and that will result in the overall project size being about 4.2 acres. This little corner of this building that you can see right here is the back of Target. So this is the Hollymead Town Center development. This is the intersection with Airport Road and 29. I'll go to the next slide. Here's what the Places 29 master plan has for this area. The current designation of this property is office R&D flex light industrial. That's this purple color. There are a variety of other designations in the area. Hollymead Town Center Area C is commercial mixed use. The yellow and orange designations that you see are different intensities of residential development. And then the pink hatching is a urban mixed use designation. Here's a little bit more information about that planned road extension. These are VDOT plans that the application plan incorporates. And as kind of a call out, I have here a diagram from the application materials that show a specific street section, the street section that would be adjacent to the development along Berkmar Drive once it's completed. So just like Sid was discussing, after today, the applicant will expect comments from a variety of county reviewers and other partner reviewers. It will go eventually, if the applicant decides to move forward, it will go to the Planning Commission, who will provide a recommendation, and then it will go to the Board of Supervisors. Neither of those public hearings have been scheduled, but the feedback and discussion tonight will be summarized in the staff report, should it go to the Planning Commission at a future date. And I know that these slides will be made available after tonight's presentation. Included on this slide here is my contact information. like Sid mentioned, I'd be happy to collect your contact info and keep you abreast of developments as this project moves forward. So I will turn it over here before Q&A to Collins Engineering.
Thank you, JT. Give me 1 second, and I will share my screen as well.
Yeah.
All right. Did that come through for everybody?
Yeah.
Great. All right. Thanks, everyone. My name is Chuck Rapp with Collins Engineering. And as JT mentioned, the developer on this is Omni, and we have Trent Lawhorn as well on this meeting to help answer some of the specific questions that might come up. JT gave a pretty good overview. I'll dive into some of this, give a little more specifics, talk about the project. So as he mentioned, this is the project site here. You can really see well how it sits kind of right at the end of Berkmar Drive, and really kind of see that future connection that will come through to Lewis and Clark Drive there at Airport Road. As was mentioned, it's a 5.7 acre parcel as it is now, but a portion of that will be cut off. And I wanted to show that plan and kind of where it overlaps with the future road extension of Berkmar, cutting through the top portion of the site there. Along that frontage, and then as well, there will be some impact along Airport Road with the roundabout and the grading and utilities and things that will come in with that project. As JT also mentioned, rural designation, so in the zoning district, so we would need to rezone this to develop it in line with the county's vision for this area for Hollymead Town Center. And it is designated, as was stated, as office, research and development, flex, or light industrial. And although this was submitted with the older comprehensive plan, wanted to acknowledge the recently adopted AC 44 plan that does designate the Hollymead Town Center area as a regional center. And the way they describe that is regional centers, most intense commercial uses, surrounded by extensive residential densities with a large mixed-use core. So that's really what you see with Hollymead Town Center, or at least the future build out of it. The idea with where the Target is and Harris Teeter and Kohl's and all of that being fully developed as a significant retail office area surrounded by dense development in the form of multifamily townhomes, things like that. And so that's part of where we're headed with this. And I'll talk about how we got there through some of our planning for this site. So kind of take a step back a little bit. You see over here is where our project site is. And this is just the larger view that I'm sure all of y'all are familiar with of the Hollymead Town Center area. And although the future land designation does call for things like light industrial, flex use, research and development, office, I wanted to point out, so with Hollymead Town Center, it's a very large project that was rezoned 20 years ago or so, a little over that. And you have two major areas that really have not gotten off the ground much. You have the A1 area, and that has a potential for over 250,000 square feet of office and retail. Then you have the A2 area, which is really these three parcels that have been undeveloped on the other side of the Berkmar roundabout there. That has another 368,000 square feet of non-residential uses that could be developed. So out of all of that, you've got only 100,000 and some change of square feet of non-residential use that has been constructed out of that 626,000 potential out there. So you've got to still have capacity in Hollymead Town Center as a whole for over 500,000 square feet of additional non-residential development. So a lot to continue to build out there, plenty of capacity. And I think what we're seeing as we see changes in the retail market is you really need higher densities to support that. Just with today's shopping habits and the way retail is surviving, things are just adapting. And so the idea is really to kind of build out this area with higher densities of residential to help support not only the existing commercial, but the future commercial, and really bring that area into the regional center that the county envisions. We also looked at this site for some industrial development, as that was identified in the comp plan as well. But as was noted, once this road goes through, it's going to take away a little over an acre of land. So you're going to have less than a 5-acre site, which is challenging for industrial development. You mainly need a large pad site, have truck access. And that access will also be a challenge with this roundabout. You have a little over 10 feet or so of grade separation from vertical separation from Airport Road. Just on the side in yellow here, you have what's identified as managed slopes. And you will not have access into this site there with the proximity of the roundabout and with that grade change. So the access into the site would come off of the future extension of Berkmar Drive. And that will be somewhat limited as well, which I'll show in our concept plan, and our application plan has been submitted to the county just due to the proximity to the roundabout. We really want to avoid backups that would cause traffic to back up into that circle. The idea with roundabouts, you need to keep traffic moving. And so there's some restrictions with some of those turning movements that we've tried to address that would really make this site less than optimal for industrial development. Just the topography of the site, the shape of the site. As I mentioned, typically with industrial sites, you have a really large pad site, you have significant truck access, usually around those buildings. And the site just really doesn't lend itself well to that. You have some significant topography as it heads down towards you have the Wells Fargo, and you have a storage facility and some of the commercial development to the south there as you work your way towards Route 29. Also, when we talk about industrial development in the county on this end here, there is quite a bit of light industrial either underway right now or planned. So I'll kind of start with immediately adjacent right across from this site on Airport Road. You have what the county identifies as the Gateway Center. And this is a site plan that's currently under review right now for flex space, light industrial space. And that'll provide 134,000 square feet of light industrial tenant space there. Just a little under 30 acres. If you go a little further north up Route 29, you've got the UVA North Fork Discovery Park. That's a Tier 4 ready site. So they've worked with the state's Economic Development Department, UVA, and the county's had a hand in that as well to provide 253 acres for industrial development. And then more recently, you have what the county purchased Ravenna Futures, or about 400 acres, with 172 of those dedicated to industrial use as well. So between all of that, just in the immediate vicinity, you have over 450 acres dedicated to industrial development in the immediate vicinity. And really starts to make the site that we're talking about of 4 acres or so, a little over 4 acres, less than optimal for industrial development when you have all of this already in the pipeline and the potential to build that out, which is going to take quite some time. So if I get to what we're proposing, this is our application plan. And as was kind of discussed with the last project, the application plan is a little more technical. And I've got more of an illustrative that's a bit more detailed, shows the actual vision for this property. But so what we're proposing is single family attached or multifamily. So single family attached in the form of townhomes, or what you see sometimes as the 2-over-2s, which have been popular in the area lately. You see some of that in the Brook Hill Commons development and kind of surrounding area, and then downtown Brook Hill. A range of 42 units to 147 units. And that range really just follows the comp plan guidance of up to 34 units an acre. When we're talking about urban density residential, that's really the only reason why that's specified there, to provide that flexibility and to align with the county's comprehensive plan. This project does have a commitment of 20% affordable units per the county's policy, and that would be up to 60% AMI for rental units and 80% AMI for sale units. One thing I want to point here, so this starts to talk about some of that restricted access that would be challenging, but it does suit itself well for residential development, as you have a roundabout coming in soon at the intersection to Airport Road with Lewis and Clark. And then you also have a roundabout a little further with Timberwood Boulevard on Berkmar already. So you have a roundabout at either end, so people do have the ability to turn around and navigate either direction if they need to. But this would be a right in and a right out and a left out, but it would not provide access as a left in on Berkmar Extended. And the idea there, again, is so that you have left-hand turning movements. You don't want those cars backing up and causing a back up into the roundabout. So we went ahead and eliminated that turn movement. And then with any planned development district, it's a minimum of 25% open space. So that would be a mixture of just undeveloped areas or preserved areas, buffers, and some of the amenity spaces. So we do propose a 10-foot perimeter buffer around that property, and that's really to the south, as I mentioned, closer towards Route 29. You have commercial development, so you're not necessarily buffering for the commercial, you're buffering for the future residents of this property. So either if it can be undisturbed, certainly would be. If it is disturbed, it would be replanted with trees, evergreens, things like that. And then along Airport Road, along with this entrance corridor there's a lot of existing vegetation. The intent there would be to leave it. A lot of it will end up getting disturbed with the construction of the roundabout there with Brickmar extension. But whatever is disturbed, the idea here would be to replant it and reforest that area and kind of let that be its natural slope down to the road there, especially with that grade difference running down there. The last going to show just a vision. This is an idea of what this would be. This shows a mixture of townhome units here. So you have driveway access, garage access on some of the units. Some of them may have parking out front. Oftentimes with these, we'll have a lower unit kind of on the back side, and that's often that affordable unit. So you can get, an apartment on the lower level. That's been successful on a few other projects. Shows this planted buffer around it. It does show the streetscape that would be coming with the Brickmar Drive extension project that the county and VDOT are partnering together on. Then it shows that planted buffer along Airport Road with the future roundabout and how that all fits together, along with that restricted access. Then we would have a couple of amenity spaces for use by the residents throughout the development, internal sidewalks, things like that, to promote some a sense of community once you're in there. And with that, I will open it up to any questions, and I will stop sharing.
Okay, anybody on the committee have a question on this? Oh, Gary. Go ahead and unmute.
No question, just a statement. This makes a lot of sense to me. I think it was a short but a good presentation to the point. Looks like you got it pretty well developed. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. David?
Yeah, hey, are these for rent or sale?
I'll throw that one to Trent. I think there's been quite a bit of discussion on it. He probably has a better idea than I do.
That depends on the day you ask right now, David. We got a little bit of lead time with the VDOT project coming through. Ideally, they're for sale townhome product, but the challenges you identified earlier with respect to for sale product and affordable housing are not haven't been lost on us. So today, the ideal situation would be for sale.
I guess if you wait long enough, the market might come to you. In other words, 60% AMI could be what 80% AMI is today or more. This community is only getting wealthier.
Right.
And more expensive.
Hey, Trent, I wonder if I could interject myself here, and you and I have not spoken before, but I understand that you're involved in some other affordable housing projects in the community. And I wonder if it would just be helpful to mention, just for the benefit of our community members, for them to understand it seems like expertise in affordable housing development.
Sure. Our company, Omni, manages, we do a decent amount of third-party construction management and development management for developers of all types. And presently, we're working for the Piedmont Housing Alliance and the Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority, and some other sort of nonprofit, larger national affordable housing developers on the construction management side of things. So as a function of that, we're not the developer of those properties. We sort of just help keep them out of the ditch, if you will, but see a lot of all facets of that. The affordable housing being built in the community now is only possible because of dramatic amounts of subsidy. I mean, I work in private development as well as public, and what the sort of subsidy requires, specifically various forms of HUD funding and LIHTC funding and all those things, are a very expensive product that on a sort of per unit basis is uh, you know, expensive. So both the comments from Nicole and from David are accurate in our opinion. Having said that, and again, going back to my sort of non-answer answer to David's question about for rent or for sale, we understand how to go and entitle, not necessarily entitle, but put an affordable housing rental project together. It's really hard and it takes a long time. And most of the projects that we have under construction right now are projects that were in planning and development before COVID. So, you know, think about that for a minute. I mean, we have a nice view into how it works. I think there's creative solutions to achieve it here. We've contemplated a smaller building with some rental units to achieve the AMI thresholds of the county's ordinance. We've also modeled various for sale scenarios and are still working on that. But, therefore, the range of what we've put forth in our application is to give us some flexibility. But we do feel it's important to, particularly with this extension coming through the property now and taking over an acre from us, to kind of plant our shovel as to the rezoning that we need to achieve. So I don't know, JT, if that answered your question or not.
No, that's a really helpful commentary just for me personally. I hope it was edifying for others too. Thank you.
Thank you.
The only question I have is looking at the plan, I didn't see any place, I only saw one entrance and exit from the development. And I know B's laughing, but and it didn't even look like there was an option. Didn't look like there were any good options for even an emergency entrance into the property. And I think the county requires at least 2 entrances. Is that correct, B? So it's something that, in the future, future plans probably needs to be included. And it doesn't look like it's going to be easy.
Okay. VDOT requires
VDOT. Okay.
2 entrances, yes.
Yeah.
And I was laughing because my dog was
Oh, okay. Anyway,
I can respond. So Bill, that is in related to the number of units proposed. And so once you exceed a certain threshold and we look at the traffic, then VDOT would make that requirement. As you saw, this site is just so encumbered with the future road and the roundabout and the access to Airport Road. It is somewhat hamstrung with what you can do and where you can put an entrance. And so we're kind of working with what we have, and we'll have to deal with that and the number of units as we move forward.
Okay. If there are no other questions, the only other thing I wanted to mention is I happen to, I think you referred to the A1 parcel in Hollymead Town Center that hadn't been developed. Well, anyway, I happened to drive by one of the areas there, and there seems to be a mini soccer field and looks like an outdoor beer garden type thing going up there. I have not heard anything about it, but it's being constructed, and I'm wondering if somebody in the county can follow up to see if they've got any permits or anything for that. This is in the area. There's a little strip in that area where there's the Sherwin-Williams paint store, and I believe a Domino's Pizza. It's just to the south of those.
Hey, Bill.
Oh, Anthony, do you know anything about it?
I don't know anything about it, but that mini soccer field or whatever is called the Fox Den.
Yes.
That's all I know.
It has some sort of connection with a Charlottesville soccer team?
I don't know, Bill.
Or as they say in Europe, football club. So anyway, if somebody could get some information about that, because it seems like it's also going to be an outdoor party, like they're talking, the sign there mentioned watch parties. So
yes, Bill, I can help with that real quick if you want, if you don't
Okay.
mind. That is a use that's permitted under the existing Hollymead Town Center Code of Development, and they've been working with the county on the necessary approval processes. So it's kind of like a fun sports bar with an accessory recreational area. bar restaurant with that outdoor fun area. So it's permitted. We've been working with them. So on that.
Well, it's the first we've heard about it, and it seems like it's already been approved. It's kind of like,
yes, sir. It's not something, just as a reminder for new and existing committee members, there are a lot of county applications that are not required to have any special approvals from the Planning Commission or the Board of Supervisors. So you wouldn't see those. They go through a staff review process. And so it's just part of business activity in Hollymead Town Center that's already allowed.
yeah,
if that makes sense.
My concern is basically you're talking about an outdoor party venue with who knows what, noise, music, alcohol. It would seem to me that there would have to be some opportunity for community input on that. Personally, I'm not opposed to it, but I know some people would be, I just think it's something that there would have to be some sort of community input on, because it does seem to change the nature of the Hollymead Town Center in some way. But maybe not. I don't know. It's kind of like, what are we here for? Unless anybody else has any comments, I'm going to.
Bill, really quick, we have a question that you might not see in the Q&A, and the question is, there is currently a cell tower on the parcel. Will that be relocated?
So the cell tower is actually on the adjacent property that the Service Authority owns. So
okay,
not under our control.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, next meeting is February 12th, and I know David's going to have something on the agenda for that, and we'll put out an agenda as soon as we can do so. Thank you, everyone.
Also, if Mr. Rapp could hang on for just a second afterwards.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. Do you have anything, B? we're kind of running over a little bit. So
no.
Okay, great. Okay, so everybody else can leave, but Chuck and B have to stay.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.